Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're setting our sights on Dompu, Indonesia.
A place with ancient kingdoms, a fusion of cultures,
And even a volcano with a past that'll make your head spin. We've got historical accounts.
and modern observations.
To pull from today, by the time we're done, you won't just be ready to drop Dompu trivia.
You'll understand how its history is woven into the fabric of the place it is today.
It's a story that stretches back centuries, right? To a time long before Dompu was even a kingdom.
Imagine early settlers navigating life on this volcanic island, making a home in the shadow of Mount Tambora.
Okay, so we're talking prehistory here. What kind of clues did these early Dompu inhabitants leave behind? I mean, what's the evidence?
Archaeologists have uncovered stone tools and artifacts, things that paint a picture of a surprisingly vibrant culture. These early settlers were skilled hunters
Hunters.
and gatherers,
Yeah.
but it's their location that truly set the stage for Dompu's story.
Ah, yes, the classic real estate mantra: location, location, location. So how did Dompu's geography shape its destiny?
Dompu occupies this incredibly strategic position
Along.
along maritime trade routes. It was like the ancient world's version of a bustling port city, with traders and sailors bringing goods and ideas from across the archipelago. This connection to the outside world infused Dompu with an outward-looking perspective from its earliest days.
So they were never completely isolated, even then.
Exactly. And this outward focus only amplified as Dompu entered its next chapter, the rise of the Dompu kingdom around the 14th century.
Okay, so they went from scattered settlements to an actual kingdom. That's a big jump. What changed?
Well, for one, they really figured out this whole agriculture thing. Rice and corn were definitely staples.
Rice and corn. Makes sense. Reliable crops. But they
Right.
weren't just farmers, right?
No. These were skilled seafarers, masters of both land and sea. And get this, their surplus of rice and corn.
Don't tell me they traded it.
Both did. Historical records suggest they were trading it as far as Java and Sulawesi. Talk about ambitious.
Wow. Okay, they were trading partners with some of the biggest power players in the region. That takes guts and some serious seafaring skills to pull that off. But I'm sensing another plot twist coming.
You're right, because no story of ambition goes unchallenged, right?
Uh-oh. Here it comes. Who are we talking about?
Enter the Majapahit Empire.
Ah, the Majapahit Empire, a name synonymous with power and influence in Indonesian history.
So Dompu got pulled into their orbit. Precisely. The epic poem, the Negara Kertagama, a 13th century chronicle of the Majapahit Empire, actually mentions Dompu as one of their vassal states.
Vassal states. So even after being, let's say, encountering the Majapahit, Dompu still had some degree of autonomy. They weren't completely absorbed, right?
You got it. They retained control over their land and resources, but paid tribute to the Majapahit. This arrangement reveals a lot about the complex power dynamics of that era, and it speaks to Dompu's ability to adapt and navigate those choppy political waters.
They were playing the long game, biding their time, but adapting and evolving wouldn't just be a political necessity, would it? In the 16th century, a new force arrived, one that would forever alter the cultural landscape of Dompu, Islam. But here's the thing, it wasn't a hostile takeover or anything like that.
Exactly. This wasn't about conquest or coercion. It was a peaceful transition brought about by, get this, traders. Those same individuals who frequented Dompu's shores, sharing not just goods but faith as well.
So it sounds like a gradual, organic process.
Precisely. The rulers of Dompu, they chose to embrace Islam. And this decision had a profound impact on Dompu's social fabric. It wasn't a complete erasure of their existing customs, though.
Right, it's never that simple. Cultures are always blending and evolving.
Exactly. Instead, imagine this beautiful interweaving of Islamic traditions with their own local practices, creating a cultural blend unique to Dompu.
It's fascinating how these threads of history get woven together. But I imagine this openness to new ideas, new influences, was put to the test in the 17th century when a new power arrived on the scene, the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC for short. And from what I understand, they weren't exactly known for their hands-off approach.
That's putting it mildly. The VOC had a habit of arriving on the scene and, wanting to take charge. But the people of Dompu, much like their ancestors who navigated the Majapahit Empire, they weren't about to simply roll over. They resisted, demonstrating a fierce determination to retain their independence, their autonomy. Runs deep, that independent streak, in Dompu's history. Even under Dutch rule, that spirit of resistance never truly faded. Fast forward to the 20th century and you see that spirit ignite once again, during a period of immense, really global upheaval.
It's almost like the world was holding its breath. What happened in Dompu during this time? Give us a sense of what it was like to live through those times.
Remember those early movements against colonial rule we talk about?
Yeah.
The ones that simmered beneath the surface? Well, in the early 1900s, they finally boiled over. It was a time of incredible unrest, of challenging the status quo,
Yeah.
you know, a direct challenge to the colonial order.
And while those early movements faced, I imagine, immense pushback, they planted the seeds for what was to come, right? Because not long after that, the world was plunged into another world war.
Right, and even though Dompu felt a world away from the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific, they couldn't escape the conflict's reach. The Japanese occupation during World War II, though brief, it left a deep mark on Dompu.
We have to acknowledge the hardships faced by the people during that time. It's a stark reminder that even in a place as geographically distant as Dompu, global events have a way of hitting close to home.
Absolutely, and yet, even in the face of these challenges, what shines through is the resilience of the people of Dompu, their ability to adapt and endure. It's truly remarkable. Think about it. For centuries, external forces had shaped their destiny. But through it all, that inner fire, that determination to forge their own path, never flickered out.
And finally, in 1945, that fire found its ultimate expression. Indonesia achieved independence, marking a pivotal moment for Dompu and its people. Can you imagine the emotions that must have coursed through the streets of Dompu? After centuries of colonial influence, they were finally masters of their own fate.
It's hard to even fathom the weight of that moment, the hope, the uncertainty, the sheer possibility of it all. And in the wake of independence, a new question emerged. How does a region with such deep roots, after centuries of being told what to do, who to be tribulated, how do they define themselves in this new era?
It's a question that resonates even today. So how did Dompu answer that call? How did they carve out their own identity?
They embraced the challenge and the opportunity to chart their own course. They rebuilt, redefined, and rediscovered what it meant to be Dompu in a post-colonial world. And part of that process involved embracing new possibilities, like tourism. They began sharing the unique natural beauty, their rich history and culture with the world.
And when it comes to natural wonders, Dompu definitely has something special to offer. I mean, we're talking about Mount Tambora, a volcano with a backstory so dramatic it almost defies belief.
This isn't just any volcano. Mount Tambora's eruption in 1815 was so powerful, it triggered a global volcanic winter. Imagine the impact on the people of Dompu to witness an event of that magnitude. The year without a summer, that's one for the history books. And speaking of history, that eruption is now woven into the very fabric of Dompu's story. It's a stark reminder of nature's raw power, but also of the resilience of the human spirit to rebuild and adapt.
Exactly. And that brings us to the Dompu of today, a region grappling with the challenges of modernization, while striving to preserve those very traditions that make it so unique. It's a delicate dance between honoring the past and embracing the future, a challenge faced by communities around the world, really. It's that push and pull that makes Dompu so fascinating. And speaking of fascinating, we can't forget about those cultural traditions we touched on earlier. They're more than just colorful ceremonies. They offer a window into the soul of this place. Take Bakar Kibo, for example. What is that exactly?
It's not your average festival. Bakar Kibo is this deeply rooted tradition, steeped in ancestral reverence and gratitude. Imagine the entire community coming together, the air thick with the aroma of roasting meat, traditional music filling the air. It's about honoring those who came before, acknowledging the sacrifices they made, and expressing gratitude for the present moment.
It sounds like an incredibly powerful, visceral experience, a true celebration of community and heritage. And what about those traditional dances? The Tari Lenso and the Tari Mapanto, tell me more about those.
They're not just performances, they're stories, told through movement, infused with local pride and symbolism. The Tari Lenso, performed by women, is all about elegance and grace. The dancers moving with these flowing scars, creating these mesmerizing patterns. Then you have the Tari Pagantao, a more energetic, powerful dance, performed by men.
So two very distinct styles, each with its own unique flavor and significance.
Precisely. And what's interesting is how these dances often reflect societal roles, the masculine and feminine energies that are so interwoven into Dompu's cultural fabric. Each gesture, each step is like a thread in a tapestry, woven together to tell a story that's both ancient and vibrantly alive.
It really is remarkable how these traditions bridge the past and the present. It's like a conversation across generations, ensuring these dances stay relevant and powerful even today.
Absolutely. And that speaks to the heart of what makes Dompu so intriguing. It's that delicate dance between honoring their heritage and stepping confidently into the future. Of course, it's not always easy.
There are always challenges, right?
Exactly. Like many places around the world, Dompu faces issues like poverty, access to education, infrastructure development. It's a reminder that progress isn't always a straight line.
There are bound to be bumps along the way. But even with those challenges, is there a sense of hope in Dompu, a belief in a brighter tomorrow?
Without a doubt. That's what makes Dompu's story so compelling. It's a testament to resilience, to adaptation, to a community determined to forge its own path. It reminds us that history isn't confined to textbooks. You know,
It's alive, it's happening all around us.
Ex-
If you could journey to Dompu, what would draw you in the most? The ancient ruins, the vibrant cultural celebrations, the majestic presence of Mount Tambora? What would be at the top of your list?
it's incredible to think that we started this deep dive with just a stack of sources and a thirst for knowledge. And now, it feels like we've gotten a glimpse into the heart of this remarkable place.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From those early settlers finding their footing on a volcanic island through the rise and fall of kingdoms, to the arrival of new faiths, the struggle for independence, and the ongoing dance between tradition and progress.
Dompu's story reminds us that history isn't just dates and names. It's about the people who lived, loved, and fought for their place in the world. Their resilience, their adaptability, their enduring spirit. Those are the threads that connect us all.
To our listeners, we leave you with this. What will your deep dive into Dompu's story inspire you to discover next? Let us know, because exploration doesn't end here. This is just the beginning.